And welcome back to Pokemon Team Videos, everyone. Today's Pokemon Team video comes to us from Parker Smith, who asked the question, what is Stitch's Pokemon Team? So look, I mean, this is obviously Lilo and Stitch. We know who Stitch is. I mean, if you don't recognize this guy, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's probably someone. He's not like Mickey Mouse, but Stitch is one of those characters who's very recognizable. So, it's kind of hard not to assume someone wouldn't be able to identify Stitch. But because of who and what Stitch is and can do, Stitch proved a very unique challenge to make a Pokemon team for. Now, this is due to the fact that, A, Stitch isn't human, so right off the bat, it disconnects him from some degree from other characters. Also, Stitch's abilities aren't like super. It's not that they're not well defined, they don't translate well into being a Pokemon team. So this proved a bit of a unique challenge, but I think I figured out at least my semblance of a team, if you will, of what his team would look like. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, this first one, I won't lie, it's very much an aesthetic thing, but I still think for aesthetics, it's about as good as you can get. Stitch's design is very mammalian, very, he's both bipedal, quadrupedal, and sexpedal, because he's got 6 limbs when he's in his alien form. But he's also very dog koala looking. And honestly, I think koala is like the big one. He kind of takes a trademark, or takes an appearance from. So Komala made the most sense. And I mean, when you really look at it, yeah, they're not the exact same, but the similarity is kind of striking in some degree, particularly with Komala, because Komala is kind of the, Pokemon equivalent of a koala. We wait 7 generations to get a koala Pokemon, by the way, and this is all you give us that doesn't even evolve. Come on, guys. You could have done a lot better than this. Could have done a lot better. I mean, have you seen something like the fan art for, grass starter koala Pokemon? There's easily things you could have done with this. 100%. And if we get an Australian-based region, I have no doubt that we will either get a regional Komala with a regional evolution or possibly a new koala Pokemon in the evolutionary line. My better guess is probably a regional variant Komala. But Komala I chose strictly on the basis of of appearances. I won't lie for that. It was strictly basis on appearances. But now we go on to a bit more of the other Pokemon that go on to the team for Stitch. And this one thing I knew I had to have on the team is an actual alien Pokemon, a Pokemon that is not of the planet. Because while the majority of Pokemon on the planet are native to the planet itself, there are actually a solid chunk of Pokemon that are not terrestrial. They're extraterrestrial. The Clefairy line is an example. Its theorized Jigglypuff line may also be among those. You know that, the 2 alien-like Pokemon from Unova, whose names I'm blanking out. They look very much like little grays. They're not from this earth. Deoxys is not from Earth. A lot of the legendaries actually aren't from this planet. And Ultra Beasts are not from the Earth. They're alien, basically extra-dimensional alien Pokemon. And I'm like, okay, looking through them, all the extraterrestrial Pokemon. I do like this one, I do like that one, but they don't really match. And I look at this one, I'm like, is there an excuse for that? Well, yeah, because one of Stitch's abilities is the fact that he is extremely dense. His body and muscles are extremely dense and durable. He can pretty much take explosions without too much difficulty. And because of that, he is actually very capable of taking a huge amount of damage. So I'm like, okay, that translates to me into either a rock or steel type in my belief. So Solgaleo, I think, made the best sense among the extraterrestrial Pokemon, given the fact that it is based on a lion, so it's mammalian, and it's a steel type, so it's got the enhanced durability, and it's one of the only legendary Pokemon that A, evolves, but B, is actually like a true extraterrestrial, interdimensional Pokemon to some degree. It is not native to our world. Like, by our world, I mean the Pokemon world. So I liked going with Solgaleo for this, or Solgaleo for this. Now, don't get me wrong, there are other options I could have gone with. I could have gone for the Clefairy line, and it's all cute, just like Stitch, sure. Deoxys is very powerful, but there was really no connection beyond that. Ultimately, Solgaleo, I felt, was, oh, excuse me, I'm yawning, was the best option here, in my opinion. Now we're getting into the ones where I'm like, I had to think. I did have to think on these ones. I'm like, okay, what else can I do for Stitch? Well, I wanted to actually to reference the show a little bit. Because I actually liked, I mean, I was pretty much older than, say, the general audience would be for that show, but I actually really liked the Lilo and Stitch show. Because it was very cute and creative, and, you know, it was like an Alien of the Week kind of thing, so it was fun. It was a fun little show. But I'm like, okay, well, Stitch is 626. There's 625, actually there's more than that, because we know there's a 627 and a 628 from the show that are actually more powerful than Stitch's. But there are 625 other relatives he has, other experiments. But unfortunately, there are more Pokemon than that in the world. But there isn't a Pokemon that is that numerous in forms. However, if we're going to talk about a Pokemon that is numerous in forms or evolutions or anything like that, you got to bring up Eevee. First off, Eevee's mammalian, much like Stitch is. Eevee's very adorable, much like Stitch is. But the big thing here is that Eevee is the Pokemon of the near infinite possible evolutionary lines. I have no doubt whenever we'll get a generation with a new Eeveelution at some point. We've gone now 2 generations without one. Galar would have made a lot of sense for the Dragon evolution. I've heard theories that we will not get more Eevee evolutions simply because they're all like special types, like special attacking types versus physical attacking types. I think, though, that's a missed opportunity overall. I think, really, it's just, you know, you have all these options for evolutions and, you know, typing that you don't take advantage of it. I mean, look at all the fan designs for it. But anyway, if we go with a theoretical how many evolutions Eevee could actually have, there's quite a bit, which represents the fact that Stitch is one of many. But Stitch is technically the strongest. Now, Eevee itself is obviously not the strongest as opposed to his evolutions, but when I had to think on like the evolutions, there wasn't any good evolution that we have for Eevee right now that fits Stitch. Whereas Eevee has the potential to be much stronger than through all of its evolutions, and Stitch's overall abilities and potential surpasses that of his kin. So if that makes any sense, I felt Eevee was probably the best one to represent Stitch and his relationship to his kin. So now we move on to another aspect of the Stitch that I think isn't overlooked, but it doesn't get played up quite enough when addressed, that Stitch is actually very intelligent. Stitch is actually a super genius. His brain operates like a supercomputer. He can pilot ships, man weaponries, you know, create strategies on the fly. He's actually very intelligent. So I'm like, okay, I need a very smart Pokemon. Most of the highly intelligent Pokemon happen to be psychic types. Okay, let's look there. Now, it wasn't going to be like a Alakazam or a Metagross type who are like beyond intelligent, like beyond a human comprehension of intelligence. That's how intelligent they are. It wasn't going to be something that intelligent. Plus, neither of them really matched with Stitch that well. And looking through psychic types, I'm like, no psychic type really does match with Stitch. Because I couldn't just use a psychic type that physically resembled Stitch. I needed a psychic type that they highlighted in their description the intelligence of Stitch, and the intelligence of the psychic type. So I'm looking and I'm like, well, I like this one, and we haven't really put him on a team yet. Let's go with this one. Plus, it's also from the Alola region. I didn't even bring up the fact that all these guys, like 3 out of 4 of these right now, are from the Alola. Oranguru are from the Alola region, which just happened to be based on Hawaii. So I didn't even bring that up because I wasn't even thinking about it when I was making the list. But wouldn't you know, a good half of this team is also based on the Alola region, which is where the location that Stitch lives is based on. But yeah, Oranguru is noted for being extremely intelligent, even using tools like Pokeballs. Add on again the mammalian aspect for it, and the fact that it's from Alola, I think it does put it as a good option for Stitch's team. Plus, it is a very, friendly Pokemon overall, which Stitch, when you really get to know him, is a very friendly individual. So I do definitely like it as an option. Now, I could definitely be persuaded on a different Pokemon to represent that aspect of Stitch, but still, Ohana means family, and I needed a Pokemon that represented family. That represented something of a Pokemon that is very caring about other Pokemon, and particularly its own kin. Now, we have definitely examples of that in like the anime, stuff like that, but in terms of like actual lore and things along those lines, what the hell is a Pokemon that really represents family and protecting one's family? Well, I think there's really only one Pokemon. No, that's not true. There's not one Pokemon. There's one specific Pokemon that truly is, you know, something protecting their child, something, child and mother and family and all that, and that's Kangaskhan. Now, you might argue, well, what about Marowak and Cubone? Well, from the lore, we get that, sure, but Cubone wears the skull of its dead mother. Or do Marowaks just, die after giving birth or something? Like, what the hell? But still, Kangaskhan, its child, it's kind of the obvious choice in many ways because it is the Pokemon that cares most about protecting its young. So I felt this was like and they live in large groups, large familial groups. So it's definitely a Pokemon that I think is very well represented of the Ohana aspect of Stitch. Last but not least, now, this was like the hardest one. Was like, what other aspect of Stitch can I bring to the table here? And one of the things is that Stitch can't swim. In fact, because of his muscles being so dense, Stitch actually sinks like a rock. So I wanted a Pokemon that pretty much had an aversion to water. And that logic, I needed either a fire, ground, or a rock type. Now, luckily, we have plenty of options for that. But again, what's the option here? Well, I decided to go, ironically, with another Alolan Pokemon, and that's Lycanroc. However, there was another aspect of Stitch that didn't really get addressed very much that I did feel like, that works. And that's kind of the crazed berserker side of him we see in the movie. So I decided to go with Midnight Form Lycanroc. And this is due to the fact that Midnight Form Lycanroc is a bit more... It's not a dark... Although they really should have gone with like, okay, it evolves into Lycanroc Midnight Form. It's a dark rock type. Day Form would have been a dark... Or excuse me, a light rock, I don't know. Ground, normal, something type. Either way, they should have done that. But still... It's clearly the werewolf-inspired berserker-style Lycanroc. And that does play to the whole more crazed aspect of, Stitch and his personality. So, ultimately, I wanted to go with that because, A, it's a rock type, which means it cannot swim or go near water. Or, be hit with water attacks. And B, it is a Pokemon that, A, is from the Alola region, or, I guess, B, from the Alola region. And C actually represents the more maniacal side of Stitch to some degree. But again, that is just, my opinion. Ultimately, my thoughts on his team is, again, Komala for appearance, and the Alola region it comes from is just kind of a bonus there. Eevee, because of the potential and the mass, family of the Eevee evolutionary line to represent Stitch's, mass experimental family. Solgaleo to represent the alien aspect of Stitch and his durability, and again, Alola. Oranguru, again, Alola. But B, it's Stitch's intelligence. Kangaskhan represents the family aspect of Stitch, how he's very much come to appreciate his Earth family. And finally, Lycanroc does form to represent A, his aversion to water, B, his more maniacal side, and C, the fact, again, it's from Alola. And so the rock type can also be his durability as well. So, that in and of itself is my opinion on Stitch's team. But this is just my opinion, as it always is. Let me know in the comments below if you have a better idea for his team, if you agree with the list, if you disagree with the list. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And like, comment, share, subscribe. I've got the who would win I've got to do today. I'm going to do that immediately after this. And then I've got to wait for the box office to update, and then I'll be done for the day. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And I'll see you folks next time. Have a good one.